Maayong adlaw sa kanatong tanan. Good day, everyone. Good day, Cebu. Good day, world. Welcome to Top of the Morning. I'm your host. My name is Jiggy Juice. Today is a Wednesday. The date is April 8. Sakto ba ko, Raf? Abril 8 ba karon?
Yes, sir.
It is a Wednesday, and of course, that's why we are doing Top of the Morning, because it is now 10 in the morning in the beautiful islands, in these beautiful islands of the Philippines. I'm your host. My name is Jiggy Juice. Right beside me, we have Raf Chavez. Maayong adlaw ni mo diya, Raf.
Mang buntag rin mo, Jig.
Unya, karong adlaw, atong hisgutan, because I think there's been some huge developments in the Middle East. I think the Middle East and the United States and also Israel has actually agreed to a 2-week ceasefire. A 2-week ceasefire. And I think that's something that we should be happy about. I think so. Do you think so, Raf? Malipay ba ta nga na ay 2-week ceasefire, Raf? O unsa ba?
Well, I think we should definitely see this as a positive development sa ongoing story that's happening in the Middle East. Hopefully, with this ceasefire, we'll be able to reach a longer conclusion to the end of this conflict. The effects this is having on the global market, on oil prices around the world, has been devastating for everybody else. Yeah, actually, even in the States, it's been a big hit to them as well, no?
Sus, my goodness, ang gasolina karon na akong mata mo gapon ni lugo sa ako ang mga sa akong mga eye sockets kay naabot na og 150 bago ra ta gasolina. Kaganiha lang gyud, di ba?
Yeah.
We saw that 150 pesos per liter.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
Paita.
mas mahal pa man sa favorite cup of Starbucks nako. So, dili na gyud, wala gyud, di na kita. Wala kape-kape ani, atong kape ani, 3-in-1 na lang gyud kutob.
Lagi?
Ha?
Di na ta mag-Starbucks.
Oh,
Kaya
ay,
murag
Starbucks sila diya.
mas mahal kayong kaan.
Pwede pa lang itubil ang ihi nako sa akong gasolina ay inom kog Starbucks daghan
Lagi bitaw.
or Boss Coffee baron. So, my goodness. Onya, ang atong hisgutan karong adlaw is the ceasefire. Like I said, and if you guys have any comments and suggestions, please join us in our conversations. What you feel about or how you feel about the ceasefire. It's funny. This event is happening halfway across the world, but yet it actually feels like it's something that we should talk about here because it affects us greatly, our pockets, our the prices of food, and of course everything else that gets affected by the increase of the prices of fuel affects us too. That's why we should talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the quotes that I read immediately after the ceasefire was this very interesting quote, Ralph, which I actually posted on my social media at Jiggy Juice. Nag-ingon sila nga, Trump controls or owns the watch, but Iran has the time. So this is a quote from one of the journalists in Al Jazeera. He said, Trump owns the watch. Ang rilo, ang nag-iya ang Amerika, si Donald Trump, but Iran, they have all the time in the world. So what are your thoughts initially, Ralph, on this ceasefire? Ang akong initial thoughts, ani, before I ask you, before I let you say yours, is that I think this is a welcome relief for us here in the Philippines. I hope nga we can feel the ceasefire. O mag-ceasefire po sila sa price increase sa gasolina. Sa? Pwede pa lang. Ha?
Unta.
Kay mura man sad akong feeling ba nga mura sad naglihay-lihay pud ta og ganing mga missiles kung mutanaw ko sa gas station murag kuyawan ako ba nga iyay murag atakihon baga ko ani or mahuwasan ko gamay. So in a way, I hope nga we can feel the ceasefire in the gas pump.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I feel. My immediate response, but I hope nga this appears, this ceasefire that we see on television appears in the gas pumps. How about you? How do you feel about it, Ralph? Go ahead.
Well, I think that was a very interesting quote nga gihatag ina, and I kind of have to agree with it. Kay Iran really doesn't care about how this conflict is going to affect everybody else. In fact, they're the ones that are holding the Strait of Hormuz basically captive sa ilaha. Basically, you know, they're the ones that are attacking international vessels, which is supposed to be, that's against international laws. Last time I checked, so they have all the time in the world because they don't care about the rest of the world basically.
Mm-hmm.
And the what do you call this? It's really on the U.S. to end this as swiftly as possible.
Because I think the
Mm-hmm.
longer we wait, the mura man siya tuok, more chokehold ni ba,
Yeah,
di ba?
basically.
And the longer we wait on the Strait of Hormuz to open, the longer the chokehold is, the more consequential and damaging effects in the economy, not just in the United States, but the global economy, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
So kung mahot na naghangin sa chokehold, wala na nanay mga economists gyud nga mo padong na gyud og ganing depression or whatever, right? Economic collapse, di ba?
Yeah, lagi. Yeah.
So
So-
it's easy for us to talk about like it is a theory, but this is actually a very appropriate analogy, di ba?
Mhm. Yeah,
Mura
it is.
literally gituok yun sa gubat ang world economy, di ba?
Basically. And it's all because of this the oil trade that goes through there. 25% of global oil trade.
20 to 25%.
Yeah, 20 to 25%, something like that. So it's a lot. It's a lot. And my first thoughts, Jude, when I heard the ceasefire has been announced, is I think this is pretty much the end result of the what do you call this? Not the end result, like desired result rather of all the threats that Trump has been basically blasting on social media. Let's be real; those are all more or less empty threats.
Mhm.
And yeah, they were over the top, and I never thought they were gonna happen. It's just I'm just thankful that the human shields that the Iranian regime lined up on their
What do you mean by human shields?
well, in response to sa mga threats na gihatag ni Trump sa social media, kay the Iranian regime started lining up civilians outside their power plants, outside sa mga key facilities, and basically like
Also, maybe probably another crazy response to a crazy statement, right?
yeah, basically. Yeah, and who knows if those people were there voluntarily or if they were being forced to be there. But I'm just glad that this isn't gonna end in more civilian casualties or anything like that, because that was a scary thing to see when they started lining people up there.
But this actually buys Iran a bit of time, diba? 2 weeks, right? And also the United States and Israel, right? So I wonder unsa ilang buhaton in this 2 weeks time, right? Like because what the ceasefire means. Can you please locate the truth tweet or whatever you call that of Trump? What this allows is kato ko nung 10-point plan sa Iran will be considered now. Naman to proposal, di ba? Si Iran, di ba? And can you just read the Trump truth? That truth is actually their own version of Twitter
Yeah. Unsa nga truth post specifically mo gipangita?
about the ceasefire.
Okay.
Let's read the actual tweet or truth of kani silang maro jud kani si Donald Trump, naghimo siyang kaugalingon nga social media.
Yeah, that was because of the time nga giban siya sa
Yeah.
X, di ba?
Yeah.
And
Well, he's already friends with Elon Musk.
Gi-offer naman siya nga makabalik siya sa X, pero he kind of like I already have my Truth Social, I'm not gonna go back, kind of thing. Oh, maybe I have to actually go to his Truth Social account.
There you go. Can we read that? This is the actual truth tweet, if you know what I mean, of Donald Trump, the President of the United States of America, in response to the talks about a ceasefire. What's his statement?
Okay, so this was posted on April 8th, 2026, 6:32 a.m. in Philippine time, I believe.
Okay.
I'm not sure and say equivalent to US time, pero based on conversation, according to the real Donald Trump over at Truth Social, based on conversations with Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and Field Marshal Asim Munir of Pakistan, and wherein they requested that I hold off the destructive force being sent tonight to Iran and subject to the Islamic Republic of Iran agreeing to the complete, immediate, and safe opening of the Strait of Hormuz. I agree to suspend the bombing and attack of Iran for a period of 2 weeks. This will be a double-sided ceasefire. The reason for doing so is that we have already met and exceeded all military objectives and are very far along with a definitive agreement concerning long-term peace with Iran and peace in the Middle East. We received a 10-point proposal from Iran and believe it is a workable basis on which to negotiate. Almost all of the various points of past contention have been agreed to between the United States and Iran, but a 2-week period will allow the agreement to be finalized and consummated. On behalf of the United States of America as President and also representing the countries of the Middle East, it is an honor to have this long-term problem close to resolution. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump.
So, is that an acknowledgement of the 10-point proposal of Iran? And can you go back to that part, please?
Mm-hmm. Well, acknowledgement of it. What do you mean exactly? He says no. They received a 10-point proposal from Iran.
It's a workable basis.
Yeah, and believe it's a workable basis on which
So
to negotiate.
I wonder what the 10-point plan is, because I think one of those was that Iran continues to control the Strait of Hormuz. Maybe we can look for that particular 10-point plan that Iran.
It might be a new. It might this might not be similar to previous proposals that were given based on the fact that this is the one that basically got the U.S. to agree to a ceasefire. So we don't know if this is the
but I think
the
that's
exact same.
I think that's the one. That's the one.
When was this the one that you're thinking about? When
A
was
few
it
days
given?
ago. A few days ago.
A few days ago.
Yeah. So did that indicate that it was a new proposal? If it's new, then if it says new, then new. If it's not, it's not.
No, it doesn't necessarily say new actually.
So maybe we can just have a look. Whatever we have, let's Google the 10-point proposal of Iran.
Okay.
Mga kaigalan, if you're wondering what we're talking about here, we are talking about just the newly arrived at ceasefire between the United States, Israel, and Iran. I think one of the things that we failed to talk about, Ralph, is that Israel, actually, I read somewhere, actually agrees with the United States and Iran that they will have a ceasefire. So what are the 10 points that?
Okay, hang on. I'm trying to read it.
It's not in bullet points.
It doesn't appear to be laid out kung unsa ang 10-point plan nga gihatag nila as of when was this? As of yesterday, or at the very least 2 days ago. So it doesn't necessarily lay out unsa jud ang 10-point plan.
Let's just read that. The Iranian
Okay.
proposal considered 10 clauses, including an end to conflict. Maybe we can read that part.
Okay, asa a bit.
The third paragraph.
Okay.
Lower, yeah.
Here, okay. So the Iranian proposal consisted of 10 clauses, including an end to conflicts in the region, a protocol for safe passage through the Strait of Hormuz, the lifting of sanctions, and reconstruction. IRNA reported. The conflict has spread to the Gulf region and Lebanon, where 1.2 million Lebanese people have been displaced due to Israeli attacks. Details about the 10 clauses have not been published. So we don't have any concrete...
what exactly are the
yeah,
specific 10 good, but there is a workable plan, proposal, at least, diba?
Yeah.
So I think that is a good sign, right? At least naa sila poruhan. There's a possibility that they might, agree with something, right? At least, diba?
Yeah. And this might, if it's workable, then how I understand
workable,
how people like to come to these deals is usually it's either a win-win for everybody or a lose-lose for everybody.
I wonder why Pakistan is playing mura og important role here. I wonder why of all
In
countries
mediating.
in mediating anong si Pakistan man gyud. Because I remember before, right? This was the place. Am I correct, Ralph? Am I remembering my history correctly? But did they find Bin Laden in Pakistan?
I,
Where
I, I don't remember actually.
and Pakistan is actually also a very no very interesting and vibrant country, right?
Yeah, actually, you were right. It was in Pakistan.
So
Yeah.
they found Bin Laden in Pakistan. So
Hmm.
these guys are really into this whole Middle East conflict, right?
Yeah, very, very, very
Yeah,
tied into it.
yeah, tied into it, right? So I guess because I don't think um, it is possible for an Iranian and an American to be seated at one table and have a conversation, right? I mean, I don't think that's possible right now in the heat of the moment, right? In the heat of war, in the fog of war. So I think they need intermediaries, and I think it's good.
Basically, yeah.
The Prime Minister of Pakistan was able to organize this ceasefire. I wonder what it was like. Was it like people seated at the table, like, or was it like people just exchanging messages and phone calls and stuff like that, tweets and whatever.
It probably was the latter, like phone calls, messages, emails.
Yeah.
It probably was something along the lines of that. I don't think they actually met in person because if they did, then that would have been reported as well, diba?
But I wonder unsa nila pag ascertain ba nga if it's really coming from this source, right? You know what I mean?
Like kanang mga messages.
Yeah, mga messages ba? Right?
Well, it probably of course is this is gonna be like a verification, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, I know. I'm just
like a
wondering
double
what
checking
kind
lang.
of verification by this. I'm just wondering, right?
Maybe ilagitan ako na check mark.
Exact or maybe it could be another person. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
it could be the enemy and all of that stuff. Well, truth be told, we have not seen the face of the new Iranian leader, diba? They're saying he's injured, diba? The son of the Ayatollah, diba?
You mean recently?
Recently, ba?
Yeah,
We
yeah.
haven't seen him yet. I mean, like he's posted a lot of messages on social media and letters, but not in person, good ba?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, that's because I think that's primarily because they're trying to hide his location. They're trying to make sure that as much as possible kay kanang dili siya mag go out in public ba because before he came into power kay there were other people who stepped up to the position and almost immediately they got eliminated. So there is that concern.
Yeah.
So
Nakakita mga ikog mga media men nga doing the news and human there's like a bomb attack or something like that behind them. Like literally like the studio was shaking and all of that stuff.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
earthquake. Did you see that clip?
I think I might have seen that. There's some also very concerning ones of like mga mga content creators online who are trying to talk about the situation as well while they're living there and
You know.
it's hard to get content out right as of this moment kay
Actually,
Ira-
giban
Iran
man na ba? Giban man na siya. Because I know,
Yeah, yeah.
Cody is in Dubai now, right? And he
Mhm.
mentioned you can't really post anything about the war.
Yeah, basically. So that's why what they're doing is like they have those those Starlink things, and they need VPNs in order to be able to post. So it's very difficult for content creators who live there to get anything out. Most of them aren't doing anything as of this moment. But I saw a video recently of somebody from Iran basically talking about the situation and how he actually got uh, injured because an explosion went off nearby him and he fell to the ground and it seems like he might have gotten a concussion because even until now he's still feeling dizziness and all that. He's not at basically at 100% in terms of his health, and he's talking about like the difficulty of it all. And literally as he's recording his statements, you can hear you can hear like explosions go off in the background, and he's just there like, oh, by the way, if you guys hear like explosions going off in the background, I'm really sorry for that. And the people in the comment section were like, why are you apologizing for that?
Yeah, I know. Thank you. I would say thank you for doing that, right?
Yeah,
being so brave and still report whatever is going on the ground, right?
Yeah, lagi.
Hey, anyway, I wonder. I really wonder what this means by this 2 week ceasefire. Because we've been seeing a lot of muraog mind games ba, like wars and tricks and whatever, lies and bluffs and all of that stuff. I wonder
Mm-hmm.
what part of this will yield something substantial ba. Because if you think about it, grabe naman kayo kapag ka-devastated ang Iranian regime, di ba? Grabe na
Mm-hmm.
kayo, they've been obliterated and
Yeah.
all of that stuff. Their navy, their army, and all of that stuff.
They're gone.
I've been totally and completely decimated.
Weapons
i-
manufacturing.
in the words of Donald Trump, right? So I wonder what else can they do, right? I mean,
Mm.
my big question really is this: nga no man nga kung if it's really decimated and destroyed, the army which is controlling the airwaves and the navy which controls the sea have been decimated. Why can't they just open the Strait of Hormuz, right? I mean, look, what is it about the Strait of Hormuz that makes it hard for anyone to
To pass through
pass through
at the moment.
if you have decimated and obliterated the navy and the army of
Mm-hmm.
Iran, right? I wonder what that means. Kani magong mga words ang gipanggamit nila good is really just all BS, right? And I think it probably is a kind of
Over exaggeration.
maybe
Hyperbole.
how do you call that? More of their detachment to the ground truth ba,
Mm.
and what is really going on, because every time somebody says something, it is always kind of contradicted by what's happening on the ground. So
Mhm.
it could be just words that don't actually mean anything.
Yeah,
So
like-
ang akong pangutana, why can't they just take over the Strait of Hormuz?
Mm.
Right?
I
It's a
think
very interesting
yeah, I think primarily
development, right?
I think primarily kay kuan ang ilang gibuhat to make sure that the Strait of Hormuz isn't passable by just anybody. It's they laid mines in the Strait of Hormuz, and they did go after. From what I heard, they did try to go after the mine laying ships.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, and the problem is the mines already laid there, and only Iran knows where they're laid in. So
I
that's
wonder
why ships that get like the Chinese nga ships that manage to pass through the Strait of Hormuz, they managed to pass through because of their alliance with Iran, and
Yeah.
Iran was basically helping them navigate through there.
Yeah, so there's not enough decapitation and destruction that will allow any power to go through the Strait of Hormuz without Iran's approval, right?
Yeah, basically.
And that was one of the goals of. Actually, that was one. That wasn't one of the goals. In fact, before the war, diba, the Strait of Hormuz was for everybody to pass, right? More or less, diba? But now, because of the pressure applied by Israel and the United States, the Iranians decided to close the Strait of Hormuz, diba? And still, although badly battered and obliterated, the regime of Iran is still around and still capable of shooting airplanes, right? So, what has the war accomplished? People are wondering what it actually is getting worse than it's supposed to be, getting better for I don't know, for Israel maybe it's getting better, because this is like a regular thing for Israel to, as they would love to say, mow the lawn nga ilahang every once in a while magbombahan nila ang Iran para dili sila makadevelop og whatever more powerful weapons, diba? So every now and then, every 3-4 years, they liken it to mowing the lawn, right? So this is another mowing the lawn, or kaning is there something more substantial that we should expect from all of this? By all accounts, it has gotten worse, because now they have a stranglehold, a chokehold on the world economy in the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. So we were better off before the war, because during that time, everybody could pass the Strait of Hormuz. I wonder what this 2 weeks means to the parties here: Iran, Israel, and of course the
rest
United
of
States,
us.
the United States, and the rest of us.
Yeah. That is most definitely a good question to be asking. No, like what is this achieving?
Yeah.
I do remember a while back when talking about their operations that are going on in the Middle East as of this moment. Trump basically said nga, he basically said nga, he feels a bit duped by Israel when it came to engaging in this conflict, because they sold it to him as like an easy win, and it has not been an easy win at all. Although you could make the argument that they have achieved quite a lot of the goals that they set out to achieve, it hasn't been a complete and total crushing victory. No, it hasn't been the one-sided victory that was sold to him basically when they were conceptualizing or planning these operations in Iran. So it I can't. It's really hard for anybody outside of the U.S. and Israel to be able to say that they're benefiting from this, because really this is to the benefit of the U.S. and Israel basically. For the U.S., this is, I think, first and foremost for Trump and his foreign policy. This is another way for him to basically
Get a chance to win the Nobel Peace Prize?
cripple China's China's allies.
I thought he wanted to win a Nobel Peace Prize, right?
That's just something like a side quest for him. I don't think that's the main. His main goal
Is that part
still
of
China,
of
I
a Nobel
believe.
Peace Prize winner to bomb countries? Is that part of the requirement?
Obama won a
Obama-
Nobel Peace
Yeah,
Prize
for bombing countries.
for bombing countries.
Okay,
So
okay.
why can't Trump?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Why didn't he win?
Yeah, well, a lot of people would argue that Obama the fact that Obama won it, pretty much like a lot of people, being myself.
Why are we talking about Obama here? We're talking about Trump now.
No, I'm just talking because you did ask the question, like, will he be able to achieve get a Nobel Peace Prize if he continues bombing people?
Yeah.
Well, he hasn't bombed as many people as Obama has.
Okay.
So maybe he needs to bomb more.
bomb some more. Okay.
Who knows? Who knows?
Okay. So you don't think this is the one of the biggest wars of that the United States is a part of? There are bigger wars, like for example the war that W. Bush started, right? With was that Afghanistan or Iraq? What was that?
Yeah. Afghanistan, I believe.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah.
Okay, so
This is not the
biggest
biggest
war.
conflict that.
Aside from of course, the world wars and Vietnam, right?
Yeah. Like in modern history, this is not the biggest conflict that America has engaged.
How long
in
was
the Middle East.
was the Vietnam War? No, let's not talk about just the Middle East. Let's talk about the bigger wars that
but
they are
I'm
part
talking
of.
about
It.
like modern history.
Yeah. So when does modern history start?
2000s for us, basically.
Okay, really?
For us,
that's
yeah.
modern history for us, meaning people our age or us human beings. What do you mean?
For the Gen Z. Yeah, you're Gen Z, right, Jig?
Yeah, I think so. I hope so. Anyway, so that's the thing now. It's very interesting that nothing has actually gotten any better as far as the world is concerned. Things are actually getting worse. We can sincerely feel it in our pockets with the gas prices. And now that we have a ceasefire, we think it means something. We hope it means something. If it has to mean something, hopefully it'll mean that the gas prices in the gas pumps will decrease. As of today, I saw the prices. I gassed up. Murag sakit kaya nga ako ang pitaka. 150 pesos per liter. I hope this lowers the gas prices, right? One of the things that people always discuss and talk about is, first of all, this was not part of Trump's agenda, right? He claimed to start no wars and all of that stuff, right? And then his language changed to peace through might and so on and so forth. But this was never part of his agenda. That's why the Republican Party is you can see fissures in the party because they thought this was the America First president and all of that stuff. You can see luminaries of the MAGA movement who are bolting away from the president.
You're
But
disappointed.
there is a narrative here that I hear a lot, and I don't know how true it is, and I don't know if there's any politician in the United States that has actually uttered these words, but they're saying that this is actually actually a bigger um, war that is being fought, and this is against or at least potentially against China. What are they talking about? Can you please illuminate us, Ralph? Unsa may pasabot nila nga this is really you're just looking at what's happening on the ground, right? In the Middle East, but there's actually a bigger context to this war. Is this conspiratorial thinking,
No.
or is there some grain truth to it? But see, that's the problem with conspiratorial thinking, right? People always add to a grain of truth to a web of lies, right? So it becomes believable. But Ralph, based on what you have learned and what you've read so far, is there some grain of truth to the China angle to this war? Go ahead.
Yeah, there's definitely a grain of truth to it. I think first and foremost because Trump, even all the way back in his first term, his main goal was to basically uh, stop the rising the the rising power of China in the global scene,
Why?
and it's just something that he's viewed as because the U.S. is the current global superpower, the biggest global superpower of the superpowers that are still functional in the world today.
So
And
they have the biggest army, they have the
Mhm.
biggest presence of U.S. bases
Yeah.
all over the world, and
Mhm.
they have the most prosperous
nation.
economy. I
Mhm.
think the most robust economy
Yeah.
in the world. But we can argue that. But so Trump's agenda in his first term has always been to make su-
China-centered.
was always been to make sure that China does not rise above
The U.S.
the United States and overtake the United States. I, I,
Yeah.
won- I wonder, I wonder if we talk about that, but the whole global leader, U.S. versus China, and all of that stuff. What does that really mean? I mean, is there really a goal? Is there really a place for a leader? I mean, like in many ways, it's just pretty symbolic, right? Because there's no actual king of the world, right? There's no actual
Mhm.
leader of whatever, right? So these are just muraog figments of our imagination. Nga there is a leader of the world, right? Because each and every country have their own leaders, right?
Mhm.
So what does that really mean? Theoretically, Rob, pasabta ko nuko, Rob, what does that mean when people saying the United States is a real leader of the free world?
Mhm.
What does that mean? And what does that mean when they say that China might take over? China is not the leader of the free world, right? They
Mhm.
may be a leader in the economic sense in Asia, right?
Mhm.
Or some regions of the world they probably perceived as an economic juggernaut or even a military force, right? But what does that really mean? Are there actual moraog leaders that we put as a global leader, or this is just a kind of moraog mind games?
Well, I think it's a little bit of both because I do think there is like very tangible what do you call this? I don't know if you can call it a benefit. Look, effects rather to
Mm.
being the perceived global superpower.
Perceived.
Yeah.
Who perceives
Mhm.
who as a global leader? Like
Well,
so
well,
should we
ba-
get a vote?
basically,
Should we
yeah,
get a vote? Like do
it's
you
not
China perceive me as a leader or not? How
it-
does that work?
It's
I'm
not
just- I'm
it's
just
not gonna be
wondering.
something that people vote. Of course, this
So
is
I'm
gonna
just
be
wondering
it's,
what it
it's
is.
it's gonna be just like a perception lang yun, like how people view your nation basically. And
So is there like a survey of who perceives what?
no,
So-
no,
so,
there's gonna be no
So,
survey.
so
There's
what,
gonna
what
be
if
nothing
what if
like
the
that.
world, just for example, for this discussion, what if the world does not perceive the United States as a leader? If you had to measure the votes,
What if the world doesn't view
uh,
it as a leader?
uh.
What do you mean?
My question is, since this is just a perception, and and the perceptions can now be measured now, di ba?
Cannot be.
Can now be measured now
In this
in this time, right? You can measure perceptions, right? There are Pew surveys and all of that stuff, right? What if the perception is just a kind of self declaration, the self-declared King LeBron James, right? He's the king, right? So, but it's just all marketing, right?
Yeah, in a way.
So is this just all marketing?
Yeah, basically, yeah. It is basically a form of marketing. Pero outside of that, there's a very tangible side to it when it comes to asserting influence around the world. The U.S. has always been the most influential country when it's come to that, especially when they work in tandem with the UN and the EU. And for the longest time, the UN has been really good buddies with America. It's only been in recent times that hasn't been the case, and I think that's primarily because China has started to grow its influence in the world as well. A lot of people, I don't know if this is considered conspiratorial thinking or not, but a lot of people would argue it's because China really bought their way into high ranking positions in the UN. One of the funniest things that I learned in high school is that China is part of the UN Human Rights Council, even though there's a whole bunch of human rights violations happening in China as we speak.
But there are human rights violations happening everywhere.
Yeah, but you don't see state-sponsored human rights violations like what's happening in China everywhere else.
Okay.
Yeah, but what have you heard about what they're doing with the Uyghurs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's state-sponsored.
There are so many of those that can still it has to be argued in a court of law. There is what do you call that? The ICC, right?
Yeah,
Is that what it is? Is that the place where they sort of
criminal.
decide whether somebody has committed a crime against humanity and stuff like that? That's where our former president is right now, right? Still being tried for that, right?
Yeah, and
so
and
is the world does the world need a leader, or can we just operate in our own nations independently and maybe collaborate with our neighbors and do trade and all of that? So why do we need a symbolic leader like a global leader like the United States? Kinanglan din na ba? Nganong wala antay leader day. Nganong kita-kita lang imo aho diha. Ya paghuman kung natay kinanglan dito sa pikas, let's just say ginantag oil sa Middle East, then let's figure out a way to transact, right? But as far as we're concerned, I don't care about your business. I don't care about you don't care about our business, and let's just trade. Like, why do we need those symbolic leaders? And you're saying they're fighting over world dominance kaning China o America. Ngano man nga mag-away pamantang anom deg. Hagdi na sila di oy. Kita lang, let's just do our own business here.
Well, the thing about that is again,
is that overly simplistic thinking?
No, I don't think so. Para nako personally, I don't think we need a global leader. I think the US overextended itself when it started acting like the global leader, and it started, basically becoming the world police in a way, and they started doing that kind of stuff. I think that was a gross overextension of the U.S. on the U.S. part, and I don't appreciate what they did, and because they started doing that, it opened the door to somebody thinking, hey, wait a minute, why are you doing this? Why can't I do this? I want to do this. I want to do what you're doing.
What this are you talking
being
about?
The global leader, basically.
Like, what maybe you're talking in generalities. Maybe you can do a specific thing that a perceived global leader can do. What can a global leader like the United States can do? Because we all know it wasn't the United States, right? They actually sort of dethroned, quote unquote, Great Britain, right?
Yeah.
So, how did that happen? Was there like a coup d'etat? Was there like a takeover or whatever?
No, not really.
How did that happen?
I think
when did they start
start
ascending to the throne, so to speak?
Well, basically when they became the economic powerhouse of the world, and the UK, for the UK, it was really just the UK.
Economic collapse,
they
right?
were it was a gigantic economic collapse on their part. They basically shot themselves in the foot a whole bunch of times, and to the point that they bled out too much.
What's an example of the United States or a global leader overextending itself?
Well,
like for example, of us here in the Philippines, there's
For
U.S. bases, right?
yeah, yeah,
They have
yeah.
hundreds of how many? I mean, I don't know,
I-
a lot of U.S. bases here in the Philippines, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily call that.
Is that overextension? They have 700
not
U.S. bases
necessarily.
all over the world.
Yeah.
So, what could be an example of an overextension of a global power like the United States that you don't appreciate?
Well, when they started going to the Middle East and declaring that we will deliver democracy to your country, and then it turns out that that wasn't really. I really don't think that was the goal
Okay.
of those conquests, of those campaigns rather, and really it was just about
Oil?
oil, the financial aspect to the conflicts and all that. And it was never really the goal to win the war, win the conflict,
Okay.
win the campaign.
Okay.
It was just like to set up a U.S. presence there, to maintain U.S. operations there, to profit as much as they can from it.
Okay, Bogabay, that's supposed to be that is true a few years ago, a few decades ago, because the United States really actually needed more oil because they could not supply the demand of their people, right? But now the United States is the global leader in oil production, right? So they don't really need oil from the Middle East or anywhere for that matter. So I'm wondering, like, why are they still a part of this when they actually don't need oil?
Because there's different types of
Because
oil.
are they because of their global leader? Is that one of the reasons? Because they're a global leader and they need to, step up and
Yeah, that might be part of it, but I think it's because there's different types of oil, right? There's crude oil. There's
actually the oil that they need, that their people need, actually can be supplied by
their
by
current personal reserves.
by themselves. They're self-sufficient when it comes
yeah.
to oil.
Largely
largely, yeah,
self-sufficient.
yeah.
And that's why I was part of the. That's why I made the argument earlier that it was an overextension when they started, going on their freedom. We're bringing freedom to the Middle East.
Yeah,
and,
and
yeah,
and I like freedom, right? I mean, like,
yeah.
exactly the reason why we're able to say whatever we're saying or talking about now in
We
front
have
of the
freedom.
microphone here in Cebu is because we're free, right? And an argument can be made. I can't do this one in other parts of the world, right?
Yeah.
Or I could, but I'd be shot at when I go out of the studio, right?
Or while you're in the studio.
Yeah, exactly. So I like freedom, but is that a human human impulse to want to spread something if they like it? Because my whole MO has always been, we all want to build a world that agrees with us, right? And is that part of that? Is the United States trying to build a world that agrees with them, so that theoretically in their minds we will be at peace because everybody agrees with everybody?
I don't think that's the goal.
Okay.
I don't think that's
What's the goal?
especially,
Widespread democracy.
Back then.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think so. I don't think that was necessarily the goal back then either. I think the goal back then was really
Just oil?
profit motivated primarily.
Okay.
And when it comes to
So it's not democracy.
no, I don't.
Okay.
I don't think so. That was just a marketing campaign. And
So karon,
I don't believe that.
You still don't believe that this is about giving the Iranians the freedom.
I think that's part of it, but not the main goal.
Okay, so what's the main goal? Theoretically, unsa may mong pagto Raf, unsa may main goal aning Israel, America versus Iran?
Well, for
By the way, ngano gitabangan man ni sila duha ka country, nganong dili man ni madagwan 1:1, wala kansi kini si Iran da. Anyway,
that's because Israel is run by a bunch of pussies and they can't fight for themselves. So they have to coerce
Okay.
their friend in the U.S. into
Yeah.
doing it for them because
and
Israel's
they
run
need
by
a president like
pussies.
Donald Trump to say yes, right? So
yeah.
back to the original question.
When it comes to what I think the goals is primarily for the U.S. primarily, it really is threat elimination because part of the Iranian regime's mission statement, their mission,
Death to America!
their goal, death to America. That's something they've preached since their inception.
Yeah.
That's their goal, and
But-
they've always been perceived as a threat because of that. So you know, if you didn't want the U.S. to start doing that to
So
you, maybe.
in 2026, in the year 2026, in
Mhm.
these modern times, there are still people out there in the world that want an entire civilization wiped out. I mean,
Mm.
aside from Donald Trump, of course,
Yeah, I think those are empty threats.
there are still other people out there, right, that want
Hmm.
civilization wiped out. Yes,
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I mean, like, what one of my favorite podcasters, Sam Harris, mentioned this with so much kaning passion bang. Ingon siya nga, you just cannot give a jihadist culture nukes.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's only one reason to be at war with this country, it's
Mm-hmm.
because of that.
Yeah.
So they are a jihadist nation.
Yeah.
So my question is, if you have a regime change and you have a jihadist nation, aren't you just going to replace one regime from another? In fact, diba, the Ayatollah, the one that they decapitated a few weeks ago, was actually born out of a revolution back in 1979, diba?
Mm-hmm.
So, um, what does regime change even mean? Like, what does that mean?
Well,
And will
or
that be still just like what happened 50, 40 years ago?
yeah. What does regime change mean, and what does it what is it gonna look
How
like
does it
in
look like? Yeah,
Iran?
what does that mean?
I think first and foremost, it when we're talking about regime change, it's really like a change in the principles of the governing body, at the very least. You know, aside from the fact that you're changing the personnel, you know, a genuine regime change would also involve a changing in the their priorities and their mission statement, their goals as a governing
Why,
body.
why can't the Iranians or anybody for that matter just not think about, for example, the United States? Why can't they just, because they are actually very rich in resources, right? Very rich in
Mm-hmm.
oil and other minerals, right? So why can't they just not think of wiping out another civilization? I'm just wondering, magano man eh?
Well, yeah, that's something you're gonna have to ask your leadership, no? Why are you asking me? I don't know. I don't know. Well, that's something I want to ask them. Pud like,
Yeah.
nun sa man mo, pwede ra man unta nga kan mag inyo ra dira. Kay you could have been self-sufficient,
Yeah, exactly,
but
right?
instead you're
But,
you're funding
I
proxy.
think, Magud, one of the greatest sources of pride of the Middle East is that they have been a civilization longer than most people, right? They've been around for such a long period of time, and who are these people who tell us what to do, right?
Mm,
There is a kind of truth to that murabag narrative ba nga dugay na kami diri in this whole thing of civilizations, right? Nga, who are you
mhm.
to order us around, right? So I think part of that is really the fact that the Middle East has always been around longer than most of these so-called civilizations, and I think they feel like you have no business stepping into our business when we've been doing this for longer than you,
I
right?
love it. I love you said so-called civilizations,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
as if that's something that's up for debate at the moment. But is this a civilization?
I don't
Is
know,
it?
man. I don't know, man. I don't know if we are civilized.
What qualifies something as a
I have
civilization?
no idea, man. I have no idea. Maybe our friends from the Artemis too can tell us what civilization is, because they did have a very interesting point of view perspective
Mm.
from space, right?
Yeah, I'm more. I saw. I think people were like, I think the Artemis 2 crew have like a connection to the internet, right,
Yeah, yeah.
on their shuttle,
Uh-uh.
and they had like a live feed
Yeah.
that the astronauts could also see. Excuse me. And basically, people were like spamming 6-7 on the chat.
I
And
did,
one
I,
of,
did, I
and
didn't
one
see
of the
that. I
astronauts
didn't see
did the
that.
6-7 thing, and I was over there like, oh no, no,
Okay.
why?
Case in point about civilization, right?
Yeah, yeah. It turns out we're not civilized enough. We're doing 6-7 memes in space.
It's just crazy, man.
Mm.
So literally, Iran, if given
The opportunity.
the opportunity
Mm-hmm.
to redo or to restart their nuclear program, they're not doing that just for the same reason that the United States, Great Britain, China, and Israel have nukes.
Mm-hmm.
Their sole reason for enriching themselves with the uranium
It's
and
offensive.
developing a nuclear program is really to attack,
yeah.
to
So
attack, and even without any without any reason. Is that really is that what they're thinking? Don't they
I
want?
don't think that.
Don't they think? Don't the leaders think that if they did that, it'll be all out war, and eventually, you know, damage will be done to their country even more than what they're seeing now. I mean, aren't these nukes supposed to be just deterrents?
supposedly, that's
So-
how.
so you're
that's
saying-
how.
you're
That's
saying
how.
yes
That's how
to
most
the
people.
Attack, yeah.
Yeah, that's how most people see nukes. But
Yeah.
there really is a strong belief within it's a very strong belief among a lot of jihadists
Mhm.
that basically in order for and I could be kind of butchering this. It was kind of explain. I watched a video like explaining it, and I could be kind of butchering it, but the basic concept is that they believe that in order for the Messiah, basically the Islamic version of
So Donald Trump is not their messiah.
no, definitely not.
Okay.
He wasn't blonde.
He wasn't blonde.
Yeah.
Had facial hair too, right?
Yeah,
bit of
yeah,
facial hair.
he had facial hair because if you don't have facial hair,
Okay.
that means you're gay.
We're laughing about it, but that's actually true. Anyway, please continue. Go ahead. Sorry.
Anyway, basically, they're kind of like what's it called? Rapture.
The rapture,
Yeah, basically the end times. Basically, in the Islamic text is there's a lot of war happening in
Yeah,
it as well.
yeah.
Just like similar to the Christian one as well, but it seems like the jihadist belief is that they need to start the war in order for it to get to
Happen.
that point. Yeah. So there is a
Is that a majority of Iranians that believe that, or Middle Easterns?
definitely not, but it's just the ones that happen to be in power that believe that. So the
Or
unfortunate thing
do you think that's really what they believe in, or they're just using religion
to justify
to justify and to control their people?
Mm,
For them
that's a
to
good question. That's a
to
good question.
act the
actually.
way they want them to, because they have a rule book. They have a every religion has their own book,
Yeah.
and it makes it easier to control people if they have a book to read from, because they
Mhm.
know what the people believe in, right?
Yeah, and they know
Do these people actually
they know
believe
what-
in that?
or like they have it's basically like a unified set of values
Mm.
that everybody can draw from, and that's basically where the control comes in.
Yeah.
Because that this is how we're supposed to view our
Yeah,
values.
the structure.
Yeah, this is our value structure, and we need to adhere to it basically.
Mm.
So that's how
Is that like musta na big daghan kay mga tao nga pareha gunahuna niya na, or kay like kaning giingon sila nga kana kuno the current regime kuno still has control over 20% of the population. So
Mhm.
the 80%, of course,
Very
are they getting butchered, or are suppressed,
Mhm.
or are also getting bombed at, right?
Yeah.
Because they get hit no matter what, because of the war going on, right?
Yeah.
So kung ang ilahang point of view pareha ra gyapon sa current regime, may listan ang regime og a different personality but the same mentality.
Possibly, especially if the ones that come into power moving forward are people who are connected to the current system of power right now. I think probably the biggest reason why they still have control of 20% of the population is because these are the people who have a stake in the government.
Yeah, okay.
Family members and all that. I think one very interesting case that kind of popped up recently on social media is that people pointed out that Khamenei's niece lives in the U.S. and Khamenei's niece has a whole bunch of bikini photos on her social media. And given how the government is run in Iran, if she was posting that while she was living in Iran, they'd beat her.
Yeah.
So it's very hypocritical because she's living in the US, right? And her social media posts are nothing but support for the IRGC because that's her uncle.
Mo lagi pero mo na akong pasabot ba nga maybe the old ways of thinking has changed siguro ba. Okay, you look at that. Her niece is wearing bikinis. She would be easily killed. And
Or beaten.
or beaten, but if you think about it, even if they wherever she was, if they knew that she was doing that, they could assign somebody.
There would be outrage. Yeah.
Yeah, they will assign an assassin or whatever to kill her, right?
Not necessarily.
But they could.
Just-
I mean, they
they
could. They
could.
could, right? What I'm saying is, maybe the old world is changing. Maybe they don't really think like that anymore.
I think that's definitely the case. Ang biggest nga problem jud in uh in this might sound weird, but this is something that was pointed out again, that as you rightfully pointed out, that Islam is a younger religion compared to the other Abrahamic religions, and because of that, it really hasn't reached the stage of
Maturity.
reformation, where there's a huge reformative movement within the religion. There is a growing one currently, but they're heavily
Takes time.
they're heavily suppressed. There was that first openly gay imam, I believe, who lived in Australia. Or wait, which country was he? I forgot what country he was in, but unfortunately,
But it's
somebody
not.
got to
But
him.
it's not enough yet. Not
Mhm.
to start a war, right? Or not to have a war, right?
or start a major
Yeah,
reformation
yeah.
in the religion itself.
Yeah.
It's still a very small movement. They're trying to keep it going, but the orthodoxy is rather strong.
I think Iran and the Middle East is online, right?
Yeah, it is.
They have access to the world, or grabe kay sila kakuan pod ka curtailed pod ang ilang internet, just like China nga murag blocked.
it is heavily curtailed. It is heavily curtailed.
Okay.
The Iranian YouTuber that I was talking about, he was like talking about the one that there's like explosions going off in the background while he was recording. He talked about life growing up in Iran, and how things were before the internet blackout that was like enforced a while back.
I actually have some Iranian friends here who own clubs and bars in
Oh,
Cebu. Yeah,
Really?
yeah.
Oh, it's wild.
I know it's wild.
Yeah, and basically, like, the internet is heavily censored there in Iran, and you basically do need VPNs in order to get past a lot of those restrictions, in order for you to be able to start like a
So-
YouTube account,
so
start
there-
posting.
There is a bigger war here that needs to be won. I think looks like it the way you're talking about it, Ralph. I think the bigger war here is to win the hearts and minds of the Iranians, right?
It's already been won.
Yeah.
It's already been won because of the abuse that they've gone under.
Okay.
This regime, it's already been won. They do not. That's why they only have the IRGC only has 20% of the population under their basically their control, because they've been beating these people for so long.
Nothing consolidates people. Nothing gives them reason to cooperate than a common suffering, right?
True.
But if you've been bombed by a foreign nation, that also probably a portion of the population will probably want to band together and make sure that doesn't happen, right? There should be
That's certainly a
possibility, right?
possibility.
Yeah. So I think, di ba, ningon man sila nga, the sooner the dust settles, the more opportunity for regime change,
Yeah.
right? So I think that's why we should really have stopped this war and figure out peaceful means to move forward. But does that exist? I mean, I'm saying it, but not believing it. Like,
Yeah.
is there a peaceful means forward?
It's
is-
really hard to say, because the way I see it, the IRGC
They actually did not.
they-
I have a report here that
Yeah.
says that they did not actually accept the ceasefire. Anyway, so what about the RGC?
Well, basically, I think they will do everything everything they can to stay in power, because they know that once they secede power, then 80% of the entire country will come upon them like rabid wolves to fresh meat. Basically, they will everything that they did to their people while they were in power, they're gonna do to them. Basically,
But
so
again,
they know they can't.
But
they
again, we
can't
have to
give up
realize
their power.
this the same this movement, this regime was actually a response to an oppressive regime, right?
Yeah,
And there was this was they ascended to power because of a revolution back in 1979 or somewhere within that vicinity, and they stuck in power for a long time, and that's why you know what that Batman quote, you stay there long enough as a hero, you become the villain or something like that, right? So they have become despised now. So I wonder. I already asked that question earlier, but I'm just really wondering, like, once someday, like, if they replace this regime, like, how can anybody handpick who they will replace it with?
Well,
Don't we?
currently,
Isn't that oppressive also to
to a certain extent,
to control who their next leader will be,
comes,
right?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, if the people who choose who the next leader is happen to be a majority of Iranians, would you still think
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
or would you
What's that?
view it as, or would you view it as like an extension of democracy, basically?
What's your question?
If the people who choose who the next leader is happen to be a majority of the people in Iran, would you view that as
Well, I
an
don't-
extension of democracy?
that's very democratic, first of all. So
Yeah.
that'd be great. That'd be
Yeah,
great
yeah.
if it's the majority of the people in Iran. But but only what if you know he will turn out to be
Another
worse.
douchebag.
Worse. I mean,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
they all, you know what leaders are, right? They're
Yeah,
always
yeah.
good in the beginning, right? Right? I mean, come on, man.
Yeah,
We-
yeah.
We've seen this playbook many times over, right?
Yep, basically.
Kaya mga leaders, maayo lang na sila, like so good, pero guman na nila, they don't really, they capitulate to different pressures and all of that stuff,
Different
and
interests, yeah.
eventually, they will become somebody else,
Yeah.
unrecognizable, not that person who you voted for, as
Yeah.
a lot of people would say, right?
Yeah, and that's been the norm for leaders just
Yeah.
in every single corner of the world so far.
So kaning ceasefire ba, it means something because it means nga mag-undang sila og binumbahay onyang Strait of Hormuz hopefully will open for 2 weeks. So, magkabuang na sila dugan ba? Kaya 2 weeks naman ang opening, di ba? Mag-traffic na doon sa Strait of Hormuz.
Magdinali ay sila.
Oh, mapil na tong mga dragon boat paddlers na to sa Cebu, di ba?
Maka-imagine baka nga na yung mga oil tanker mag-overtake.
Oh, mag-overtake kayo ba?
Mag-overtake kayo sila.
Di ba? Sa muka.
Unta, di na sila magbinangga ay dara. Kay
Bay, I'm curious, bay ba? Because everybody's talking about electric this, electric that, right? I'm wondering ba? And number one, I was thinking, I wonder what happens if everybody starts going electric, right? So nobody needs fuel anymore. And then my head immediately went to, so there's going to be another kind of war that'll be fought not for oil, but another resource that makes batteries, right?
it's still gonna be oil. I'm sorry to burst your bubble. but
Really?
It's still
Really?
gonna be oil.
What if they don't? What if we don't? What if we don't need? What if we don't need?
powers the electricity that's needed to
No,
charge
no.
your?
I'm trying to paint to you a world that does not need fuel anymore.
Right.
I'm just
I don't
saying,
see
ba?
it.
Yeah, whatever, man. That's beside the question, right? My
Okay.
question is, if we don't need fuel anymore,
Uh-huh.
then we will have another.
As to rival the one that China already has, because China already has dealings with nations. A lot of them, the nations that where you can mine certain earth minerals that
Yeah.
are required
Yeah.
for these
Rare earth minerals,
rare
right?
earth minerals that are required for these, and it's really interesting to point out that this is just because I brought it up earlier that China is in the human rights Commission on Human Rights and the UN. The countries that China has dealings with for these rare earth minerals happen to have the laxest worker safety rules. These are countries that basically let children mine these minerals, and there's so much unfortunate death that happens because of it, because very lax labor laws and all that, and China profits the most from it. So it's really hilarious that they're still in the UN Commission on Human Rights. Until they're removed from that, I will not take the UN seriously when they condemn
Oh
anybody
man,
for human
you
rights violations.
don't scare the UN, man.
Nah.
You're scaring them.
They'll never be scared because they're profiting too much with China. All they care about is profits.
Yeah, yeah.
Worthless.
Which brings me to that question, man. Like at the end of the day, it is still all about the almighty dollar, right?
In a way, yeah. It's all about protecting economic interests.
Yeah. So
And
it is still the greatest
Mhm.
story ever told, the story of money.
Yep.
So whatever happens, I think there is always going to be an economic or monetary solution, right? So if there's a monetary solution to this, di bang gipangayo si Iran is they have to rebuild Iran, right? I mean, like
Part.
they get paid money to help rebuild.
Yeah. That's part of
the-
it.
So whatever solutions that may arise, I think monetary or otherwise, let's just do it, man. Right?
uh, the sooner this ends, the better for us.
Yeah.
So
If
whatever
it's
you
a monetary,
whatever you guys can come up with,
Yeah.
please, guy represents
yeah.
basically.
So that's another war.
That's another one.
Okay, so dili gini mo human, di ba? That's what you're saying, right?
Who
Huh?
knows? People really like conflict.
Yeah. Anyway, it's funny all the time. While we were talking, part of me is really just having um, we can make things better. Did somebody die?
Our internet.
Who? Oh my God! Our internet.
Yeah, so our Facebook Live kind of ended on its own,
Oh
actually.
wow! Oh man!
Yes.
Maybe that's AI, man.
I don't think so.
You don't think so? Why do you not think so? What?
Because AI is kind to me.
Oh, I. Okay, let's just turn it off, man.
All right, well, guys, thank you for tuning
Are we
in.
recording this still? Is this being recorded?
Yeah, this is
Okay.
still being recorded.
Okay.
So maybe you want to wrap
Yeah.
it up.
So let's just wrap it up. You guys take care and make sure you comment and give us your comments and suggestions. Maybe if you have a specific topic that you'd like to talk about, post it right on our socials. Thank you so
Mhm.
much. My name is Jiggy Juice.
And I'm Ralph Chavez. This is TMC 105.1, the best of us.
TMC Cebu.